I'm going to open my non-coffee this morning.
How about a fresh?
Good morning. Good afternoon. Hello, I'm Buddy Martin. I'm up here in Tennessee, and out my window right there, we'll have a picture of it later on, is right there is Tennessee, right there. We're right across from Dolly Parton in Sevierville, Pigeon Fork, and down, and you can't see it, is the game preserve or their game preserve with wild bears in it, which occasionally service up here to Dawn's cabin, she calls it. I don't know how she calls it a cabin because she sleeps nine people, but it's a beautiful place, and I've enjoyed my time up here. Guys, you guys have been killing it on the air. Good job.
Hey, it's a lot to talk about, buddy. Brendan's directing he's Captain Steubing, man, but a lot to talk about last night.
No, I'm not Captain Steubing. First of all, I'm not Captain Steubing because I don't want to be Captain Steubing. I want to be Isaac, the bartender.
There you go. Well, he was directing.
That's the job. You're going to have the job on the cruise ship.
Yeah.
Just going to say.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
that's a good
point.
This
is the Buddy Martin Show, and I'm not the host, and Rob is, and Brendan's there. And I must say good evening to you folks out there. Dan Bond, for Tommy Seals checking in, guys. Glad to be with you. We got the holiday week, but there's a lot of news going on. We'll cover some of it tonight.
And we're going to talk all about it, and we're going to do all that kind of stuff. I just had to make sure all the internet glitches were out. It looks like we're clear. So with that, we say good evening to everybody, and we'll be back right after the best open in college internet sports TV history. Right after this.
Or Buddy Martin, call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening and welcome to the program. Now, what's that music playing? I don't know what that even is.
It's called bumper music, Dad. When you got a high-end producer like myself running the show, you get a little extra. You know, sometimes you get a little extra, like a little sidewinder camera.
Oh my gosh!
Right there, right back at you. You love it. You love it, and it was the greatest thing you've ever seen in your life. So I don't want to hear about it. And that's the music. It's good music. It's lounge music for you, Dad, loungy guy.
We're up here in north of Waynesville, North Carolina, in the deep woods in the mountains. And I was in Waynesville yesterday at a place there called Bosham's. And I went in there, and first of all, parallel park, which is a challenge. As I was pulling in the park, the guy in front of me came over. He and his wife passed by and did a gator chop. I thought, how'd they know? I looked at my dashboard. There was this hat sitting on it. And they were able to pull up a hat out of there, and I was able to pull right in. So gator helping gator. So then I went inside the restaurant, and a guy came by wearing a gator shirt. And I said, "Go Gators." He said, "Oh, hi, how you doing?" And we stopped to visit. And his name, I believe, was
that's not his name.
Flatters.
Flatterus.
Flanners, Flanners.
Like Flanners?
Yeah.
Like Flanders from South Park?
Flanners, Flanners.
We're going with Flanders.
He said his father.
Ned Flanders?
Ned Flanders. Yeah, so it
might
is.
have been.
Might have been.
Anyway, the point is, he was a very sharp guy. He said his father had been a bull gator forever. He said his father underwrote 2 chairs in the business department of Florida. So obviously, they were both bull gators forever. And I didn't say anything. We chatted. And finally, I said, "You know Stevesbury, yeah." And my stepson said, "Did you want a book? Want a Stevesbury book?" He said, "No, I've got it already." says, okay. He said, well, this guy wrote it. So you wrote it? Yeah, I wrote it. Yeah. Anyway, it's a nice chat. He said his biggest concern, he says he's okay with the coaching staff. He's okay with the team. He was really worried about what's going to happen to the stadium when they redo it. That was his biggest concern. Anyway, he was a cool guy. We had 2 Gators just a few minutes, and they're everywhere, man. Everywhere you go.
Everywhere you go. That's cool. That's the one thing you do when you travel around in the SEC is you get a lot of that respect. Rob and I talk about that all the time. Where that's the nice thing about being in the SEC. You don't necessarily pull for the other school, but you certainly, if your team's out of it, I want to see an SEC school take the trophy. So you're always pulling for your own team. Rob, do you pull for your own team?
I'm harder on my own team than I am any school, but
when your team's out of it, you pull for SEC schools.
Oh hell yeah, SEC all the way.
So yeah,
absolutely.
So
I've always been that way.
Yeah.
I've always been. I learned that as a kid. When we were at the beach one time, and he left for a day and a half from Destin to go up to Tuscaloosa. I said, "What'd you go up there for?" He said, "I went up and met Coach Bryant and Sam Bailey, and he ended up designing the tennis center and what's now the Sam Bailey Track and Field Complex." He said, "I'm gonna tell you one thing. They just paid for all y'all's high school tuition and college." So yeah, I got a lot of love for a lot of places.
Sam Bailey was coach at Tampa. This was before he went there.
He was really the AD, although Coach Bryant was the AD in name.
Yeah,
but Mr.
right.
Sam ran that. But hey, buddy, I have a question for you. Did Norm Carlson go to Auburn, or did he leave Auburn to take the job as the SID at Florida?
Oh, Buddy's frozen.
Buddy's frozen.
He's got it's a very pensive look. As you can see, he's got the North Carolina mountains on the other side. It looks like he's coming back in here. Let's see if he had an internet part.
I heard
hey,
did
buddy.
Norm Carlson what?
Go ahead.
Did Norm Carlson did he graduate from Auburn, or did he leave Auburn to take the SID job at Florida? Which
graduated from Florida.
Okay.
And he went to Auburn to work there, and he came from Auburn. There were 2 guys up for that job that year, and he was one of them, and I was the other one.
Wow.
And he, of course, was more experienced, and he got it and should have. And he met a guy named Steve Spurrier a couple of years later and knew how to get him promoted and how to get him a Heisman Trophy, and was one of my dear friends, Norm.
He was first class. I mean, I'm going to tell you, buddy, somebody needs to do a documentary, a 30 for 30 SEC network. And this is why we love these games and we love our schools. A 30 for 30 on the legendary SIDs in the Southeastern Conference. We've got to start doing that. We've got to.
Yeah, we could probably name 10 of them right now, but we just really great with that. They were the days now when they were such help to the media. I mean, you needed to have the ear of the SID if you covered the team, and they would help you any way they could. Today, it feels like they're there to keep you from getting information. That's how it's changed. So, I mean, look, it's not about, ego or who's important. It's about doing your job. That's all. So, yeah, you're right. There's some great ones. I'm not going to name quite a few of them, but when people would kick it here less because they don't know what SIDs are.
But, buddy, I think you discount how important your role and what you did and do is. And I think I really believe, like, I've had several of my 25 and 27-year-old guys that I have on the show in the last week. Kyle is doing it. He's doing something about the history of the SEC. Mitch Davis sent me a list of, he needed a historian for about 6 different SEC schools. He's doing features on the history of every school, just like we did the SECU podcast on Texas. We're about to do one on Oklahoma. I think the more we know about our history, the more we appreciate the Southeastern Conference and the people that the SIDs put us on the map. And you know that. They need to be given credit. I'm absolutely serious about that.
I guess we're in and out tonight, and so we'll just take our chances.
Yeah.
Well, I did read this one document I wanted to get in there, and I'd like to get that picture up if we could before we get knocked off the air. This is the top schools and athletic budgets in the country in 2023. I sent you the list, you guys. I know you didn't see it, Brendan,
Oh,
but you see how top heavy they're seeing. This is the most money in what their budgets are, and
Yeah.
they had the most money to spend. Ohio State.
Yeah.
Rob, did you see it? Because I didn't see the
Yeah.
list.
Yeah, that we talked about that list
What?
on the morning show. It's a
Did you?
big time. The top 25, buddy.
Yeah. And is that this is the top 40, like 50. And it has Florida at 15, which I was surprised they were so low at 189 million. And that's about 100 million short of Ohio State. So
Wow.
money, it's crazy. And you can go through the list and see, might surprise you to see who's up there and who's not. You take a school like Mississippi, Ole Miss is way down the list. They're like number 30 or something. Yeah, they are number 30. And ahead of them is Louisville and Arizona. So anyway, so it's hard to tell. I don't guess this counts NIL money, Rob. You would know that. Probably not.
No, I think that's the difference. But I wanted to digress and veer while we have you, buddy. I know you're going to be on for a few more minutes, and we were talking earlier about the article you were reading about. I don't know. I don't recall who you said it was. I don't think you did, but we were just discussing on the phone, and Rob and I too. Is that how talented is Florida going to be on offense this year? There's a lot of people, picking. Some people who are smart people are saying, well, watch out for Florida, watch out for them coming. Now they've got a lot of weapons. Rob, we talked to you about, looking over at the, current roster. Lauren Meadows will join us at here half past the hour, discuss a little bit more depth. But before Buddy went, I just wanted to know, not position by position, but what you thought, about that article that we discussed and your opinion about it.
Well, this actually wasn't an article. It was a take on the show Cole Kublik. And Rob knows who he is. Of course, he's an Auburn guy. He's really developed as a very strong talk show host, very knowledgeable. He has no reason to kiss up to Florida, but he has a strong commentary this time on people who keep saying Florida's going to be a bad team, going to lose all these games. You better watch out what you're talking about, because I can tell you right now, you go down the list of games. Who says Miami is going to win? Did they win 8 games last year? No, they didn't.
No.
And he went down the whole list of opponents and said, you all are making judgments like these teams are all going to be great teams, and they're not. And Florida is loaded on offense and getting better on defense, and they've got the team that could win a lot of games. So don't think for a second Florida's going to be a bad football team, because they're not. That's Cole Kubalik saying that. So that's pretty impressive.
Well, that's what we were saying, is that on the blue chip index, Florida's there at number 10 in the country. They have the 10th most talent on their roster. That's 4- and 5-star players signed in a 4-year cycle. And again, I don't get into recency bias, and I don't get into peer pressure. If I think a team's good, I'll say it. If I think a team's bad, I'll say it. I don't care. I'm with Cole Kubalik. You start looking, and then you got to talk about Gators special teams. Y'all got a good field goal kicker. Your punter averaged 48.6 yards a kick. You can flip the field, special teams like that. You go back, and it's I think Roman Harper and Cole Kubalik talked about, when people look at Florida's schedule, they get caught up in logo fever. But here it is, Florida there with the 10th most talent-rich roster. So, I mean, that's got to mean something. And all these analysts are going to be able to coach now. If they didn't start off with the problems, at the Utah game, who knows how the season would have gone. I mean, psychologically, losing begets more losing if you're not careful. If Florida's got 6 wins going into that gauntlet in the last 5, they're going to win some of those games. They're not going to go 0-5. It's not going to happen.
Well, it's like, we should mention, by the way, the show being brought to you by Meldon Law. They don't back down. Appreciate their support, and others. Talk about them before we go off the air. I want to say that tomorrow night, you guys, it's your show. Now it's going to have Allie Peak on, and she's terrific, as you know. and we'll get her take on some of this stuff. But she is she's on top of the situation pretty well. I think what we have to find out here is if this team is underrated, which I think it might be. Like I said to you last night, the old line about money, buy low and sell high. You could get a good bet on Florida right now. And we're not talking about a team that's going to win 10 games. But I'd be very surprised if most people are saying that they win 7 or 8 at least. And this team is not going to be scared of these high-ranked teams. We also have said they should win 5 of their first 6. And it's like they're going to get beat all 6 games at the end. No, they're not.
Yeah.
They're going to beat somebody in the back half. So if they do that, they're definitely a 6 or 7 win team. And if he can survive that, look out. I think there's a great deal of confidence building right now in this program, and with what they got and the talent and the people that keep signing, they're going to be I wouldn't say imposing, but look, Georgia's, like Franz wrote in this column this morning, Georgia's got 3 tough road games, real hard to ranked teams. I think all will be in the top 10. They've got that's a recipe for a loss or 2 right there. So I'm not saying they're going to be better than Georgia. I'm just saying we don't know what's out there. With a schedule like this, 12 teams going to the playoff, we're not sure what Ole Miss is going to do. We don't, and you get Ole Miss at the very last game of the season, like somebody said. Cole said, "Boy, if I play at Ole Miss, I'd love to have them the last game of the year at home." So there's things that, hey, we know this, guys. We've seen a lot of football. Things happen. There's another word besides things. And football, college football, stuff is going to happen. Now, Allie pointed out at this point a couple of weeks ago, the year they opened the season beating Utah, everybody said, stand back. The Gators are here. They're in. No, they weren't. Just because you won the opening game against a ranked team doesn't mean you're going to have a great season. But starting.
Yeah.
About the 5th or 6th weekend in October is when we start knowing who the good teams are. And I think, and it is true, there's a court decision that just came out. All these analysts that are on all these football teams, they now can coach on the field. Now, they can't go on the road and recruit, but these analysts can coach. And Buddy froze there for a second. But that's going to be big because special teams, we talked about it last night, are going to start getting a lot more attention at schools where, in a lot of cases, they haven't been, and they're a third of every game. I mean, if you've got solid special teams, that's like having a lot of money in savings before you start a business. And it's nice to have a lot of money in reserve.
Yeah, and that's been the knock on them, and all year is not paying attention to something that seemingly obviously turned out to be a bigger deal than it was. We'll keep trying to bring in Buddy as he's in witness protection. Buddy,
I'm going
to chopping out.
Yeah, my Starlink's not working good tonight, so I'm going to have to lose you guys, I'm sure. I just wanted to say that Cole said this, and I believe it. This is such an exciting season for college football. If you can't get excited about this one, buddy, you can't get. And this hype video I sent you, Rob and Brendan, it's about a 12 or 13 minute SEC hype video.
Yeah,
it was. The Buddy liked it, so it was pretty good. He likes those hype videos. He likes.
Send me that hype video. Look, you just listen to smart people like Cole Kubelik and Roman Harper on their show, Read and React, and they're putting out. You start looking. People look out of the rearview mirror. That's the problem when they're looking at the 24 season. They're looking at what happened last year. I mean, it has something to do with what's going to happen this year. But remember, every day the coaches are working these guys. They're all trying to get better. They're not worried about what happened last year. That's what a lot of fans myopically focus on, and it's to your detriment.
For sure. Again, thanks to our sponsors, Meldon Law, also Star Medical Research, and our friends up there in Gainesville that do such a great job, TitanMRI.com. So that's what's happening there. A lot of good talk, you guys. I'm going to be bouncing in and out of here. I'm going to get out of town. You got Lauren Meadows coming up, and very exciting. I tell you, you can feel the building. If you get a chance, go online and get that Florida, that SEC. It's out of the SEC hype video. It is incredible. It will get your blood boiling, Brendan.
Yeah, you
We're
like those
watching it
hype
right
videos.
after the show.
Yeah, you like those hype videos. All right, buddy. We'll say goodnight to you. Thank you very. Oh yeah, buddy. You didn't show everybody. You didn't want to brag. I know you want to brag about how you're in paradise and the rest of us are working. So I did have your pictures. Where are your pictures, buddy? Your special photos.
I don't know.
Your-
I couldn't. I don't know.
I don't know. It's crazy. It's
I
crazy
couldn't log them
producer.
up.
Yeah,
I
you
tried
guys
to
got
log-
this crazy producer is a problem. All right, there's one of them. There you go, buddy.
Oh,
All right,
man.
right across that mountain over there, that's Tennessee. Right
Okay.
down below there in that gorge, that's the wildlife
Okay.
center where the bears come from, and it's a beautiful view.
Bears?
That's just one view. Yeah, bears. Yeah, so you got to know about bears.
How are you with
know?
bears, buddy?
Yeah, you don't want. There's the view. That's the one.
Last I checked, you weren't a big bear guy. Like,
No, I'm not a big bear guy. I sent that to Terry Bradshaw. He wrote back, "A view to die for," and
Yeah.
it is spectacular. And Dawn and her family built this up here years ago, and it's just absolutely fantastic. It's a beautiful place.
cute. Those are cute little mounds out there. Those little mounds.
Yeah, they are
they
little
have
bells.
there.
I know you big boys in the Rockies think you got a
Yeah,
ball.
so grew up in the
But-
Rockies, dude.
Mhm.
There you go,
So
buddy.
anyway,
Cute.
it's beautiful.
Were they about 8,000? Huh?
Yeah,
What-
give me a view from your house in the Rockies. Let me see how it looks. Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
So-
I don't have one, there,
Yeah,
buddy.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway,
Not all of us can live the bougie. Daddy, you have a good time there, living your good life. We'll hold it down here in the court. Buddy Martin, check him out tomorrow night. Are you going to check in or no?
I'll check you in, but you'll have Allie and you have Ben. I'm going to see Ben on Friday. I'm coming through Savannah. I'm going to stay at the Indigo Hotel there, and I'm going to see Ben. He's going to come by. So
we
say
expect
hi
some
to him.
video from that. Lots of video from you.
Well,
Buddy
you won't
Martin.
be on the air.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much. We can play for Monday. You know, you and Ben. I mean, you are, son and dad. If you
I'm
really
his grandfather. His grandfather.
grandfathers, right.
That's what he tells
Right.
people. See this picture? We're brothers. Brother,
Yeah.
his grandfather.
Yeah. Well, he's like
All right.
buddy to me. So
He
all
said,
right.
people just look at him and say, "What do you mean?" They look like want to say something. What do you mean? What's the matter with this? You was daring them to say, "You're white, you're black, and he's white," and they won't say
Right.
that.
What do you mean? What?
Yeah, what do you mean by that? What can't you think
do you
that
mean?
happened? I mean, come on, man.
All right. Thanks, Dad. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right,
Have
buddy.
a good
Love you,
night.
Brendan.
All
Rob,
right.
thank
See you.
you,
Love
buddy.
you.
You guys doing a great job.
All right.
Okay.
Have a great
Good
time
job.
up there. Be careful.
All right. See you.
All right. He's buddy Martin.
I've got a T-shirt. Don't feed the bears. It's a black T-shirt in white with a claw mark and blood everywhere. My wife got it for me in Whistler. Or
Oh yeah, I've been there.
what was that place in
Blackcomb.
Canada? Audrey,
Blackcomb. Whistler.
was that where you got that T-shirt?
Whistler.
What's the other place y'all stayed at? The remote place.
This is
Yeah.
good radio.
Yeah, she stayed in some remote place where they took you by plane.
Uh-huh.
Oh, Chilco up
yeah.
in Canada.
Uh-huh. Sure.
Holy cow!
Yeah,
She's like,
man.
"Are you coming back to get us? You promise?" It was bad.
Most people don't realize that more than half of Canada is uninhabitable.
Oh,
It's
Yes.
you can't. It is rough country up there if you're into
Yeah,
outdoors. Speaking of
it is.
outdoors, just everyone knows, Buddy knows zero about bears, starting fires, any of that stuff. And if he came across a bear, I would if he life wasn't in danger, I would like to have the video just to see it.
I tell you, there are black
my mother
bears
was the one that
everywhere.
scared the bears. We had a bear. There was a bear loose in our neighborhood for like
Yeah.
a week. They couldn't find the bear. It's
Well,
crazy.
I've been up there in the Smokies. Used to go to camp up in North Carolina in Brevard at Camp Deerwood.
Yeah.
There are black bears just everywhere. Trash can, if it's not secure, it's all over your yard. You think raccoons are bad? Try a 300 or 400 pound black bear.
Oh yeah, in Colorado. I mean, I was a wilderness instructor. You grew up, hanging your bear bag,
Yeah.
away from your camp. You everything you did was to prep for the bear not to come in your camp.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that and mountain lion. But
Yeah.
anyway, we digressed. And Rob, I think Buddy had a hard time hearing us, and I think he did capture a little bit about what we were discussing, because I know you said last night, as we're waiting for Lauren Meadows to join us here from GatorBaitMedia.com and get a little bit deeper dive into the offensive side of things and what everyone's thought that they have to get better. Right. And last night it was defense. How does defense for the Florida Gators get better? Have they gotten better? I think resoundingly yes. And then obviously personnel has gotten better at the skill position up for Florida. I think we will have a quarterback controversy at some point, although Graham Mertz has great numbers. I think in the end, you're going to have a more dynamic player back there. I don't think he'll start over it or whatever, but you never know. It's going to be a wild year. I think you're going to have a lot of different opportunities. This is Lauren Meadows, and we'll bring him in right now. Lauren, welcome to the show there, my friend. Lauren Meadows from GatorBaitMedia.com. I was just kind of introducing our deeper dive into the other side of the pigskin. Mr. Meadows, our favorite side. We said yes. We got a resounding yes last night. That defensively, Florida's gotten better, no question. Offensively, how do you feel? Same question. Has the Gators, top to bottom, have they gotten better this year? As far as offensively as a whole, that's not just the skill position.
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, I know that there's been some changes up front on the defensive line. I mean, on the offensive line, I think there'll be a lot more. They have some depth there. Like I said, getting the gentleman from USC, Brandon Crenshaw Dixon, and basically Damian George, and looks like Devin Manuel, and a lot of those guys are going to be able to help there up front, and then. Offensively, I mean, I kind of disagree with you. I don't think we're going to have a quarterback controversy at all, just because I think Graham Mertz is that good. And, unlike a lot of other people that doesn't think he puts the ball down the field enough, well, those safeties in college football are the good ones. They don't let you get behind them. So everybody thinks you just line up and throw the ball deep. That's not how it works. And, you look at Graham Mertz and his numbers and things like that. I do. I think the offense has improved. I think they're a lot better receiver than people give them credit for. I think you go getting Elijah Badger is a major upgrade at that position. If you look at Florida's history with Arizona State receivers, I mean, I think he actually came in with better stats than Pearsall did. And you got one of the gods of receiver coaches coaching those receivers. You got Montrell Johnson. You got Trayon Webb. Trey Wilson is a star in the making. People forget about the mismatch that Arliss Boardingham can be. And like I said, you have Keon Zipper returning. I mean, I think they've got a plethora of riches on offense. And like I said, I think the offensive line will be retooled enough where they get Damian George back inside at guard. They get Jake Slaughter healthy. Well, he really wasn't healthy the last 4 weeks of the season. And I think they're going to be pretty good. I mean, I do. Now, like I said, the schedule's dawning, and that's on paper. So many times we've looked at Florida, and we go back to that fateful night in Salt Lake City when you and I are sitting there at the kitchen table with the Airbnb just looking at each other like, what did we just see? And that's the thing. It has to look like something. And I think that's where people miss the boat is we look at all the flash and the hype, but when it gets down to it, the football has to look like something. I don't care how much you like Billy Napier. I don't care how much people like me, like Rob Sale and Billy Gonzalez and Mike Peterson. It's got to look like something. And that's the thing. And my biggest thing with Florida is, and I keep saying this, you got a million guys with a Jordan shirt walking around the Hefner Center, and they can't get lined up. They can't get guys on the field. They can't get substitutions. They can't get the right play in, communications, and just it's got to look like something in year 3 that looks like winning football.
Yeah, and here's the question: offensive line depth. We talked about it last night. That's a hard position to find blue chip stud athletes at. It's just not as popular as it used to be. It for whatever reason, there are a lot of reasons. We think about a 7-on-7 camp. It's all about wide receivers. It used to be about the running back. So if you're not practicing running the ball day in and day out, it's hard to have a really good running game on Saturday. But you got to break it down: offense, defense, special teams. Question for you, Lauren: your running back room used to be you wanted to go 3 deep with potentially playing a 17-game schedule. If you win the whole thing and don't get a first round bye, you better have 6 or 7. It's going to be more important than it's ever been that guys stick around. And all that talk about getting rid of walk-ons, that's got to go away. I mean, we got to have somebody with a brain lead the fight back, but we can't go. No way we can go without walk-ons. You got to have the bodies. It's going to be a war of attrition like we've never seen on the college level starting this year.
Well, I think, when you bring up, it used to be, and guys, Urban Meyer, Frank Beamer, Nick Saban, even for that end, Dan Mullen, they made their bones on keeping the starters involved on special teams. And I think that's where you're going to see the effect of the walk-ons is guys that are walking on. Those are going to be the guys that are running down on kickoff, running down on punt. To be a gunner on punt, the gunner on punt never makes the tackle. That's why it's so, the gunner's job on punt is to make the punter change direction. So, you can find some slappy to run down there and it ain't making, change direction. I think that's where you're going to start to see guys that normally tote it, catch it. They're going to come off those special teams, and then you're going to have some of those, what I call AYOs, all you others. They're going to be the ones that are going to be making an impact on those special teams, and maybe not on a consistent basis, but, I know a lot of programs, they'll have they'll have the team where, kickoff team, when we're doing okay, the game's going pretty well, and those might be your walk-ons and those kind of things, and then we'll have the kickoff team where we may be up 3 or 4 points, and we really need to get some guys down there. You might throw some of your heavy hitters on there, but I think that's where it's going to be. Plus, one of the things, and you think about this, and this might not be part of Florida's plan this year, but I think you're going to also start this. I think one of Florida's problems has been, I don't know if they necessarily practice very hard, but what you're going to start to see teams do game 13, 14, 15 is start scaling back those practices to save those bodies, almost like a track program does, where late in the season, they're not doing a bunch of, it's just mainly working on starts and things like that. You're going to see a lot of walkthroughs and things like that late in the season to preserve the bodies. And then you might let the walk-ons and some of those that are on the 3 or 4 deep kind of flatten it out at practice a little bit just to see what you got and see if somebody maybe can help you late in the season. But I agree, Rob. I mean, you're going to have that 105 that you bring into camp, and then once school starts, I think you can go up to like 115, 120. Yeah. And, that's going to be key to keep those guys in the fold, not just for Florida, but I agree, all over the place, for sure.
Yeah, and then there's some back and forth talk you're hearing people say, well, some schools might slow down, pull some starters late in the season. And as crazy as it sounds, I can see people making this argument. Well, they get rest if they don't have to play in that silly conference championship game. That's absurd, because if you play in the conference championship game, you got a first round bye in all likelihood. That's even more. This is going to make the conference championship more competitive, and we may have a 4 or 5 team tie for second place this year. But I'm not going to buy this Texas talk. Nothing against anybody, but in the last 14 years, they've had 2 double-digit win seasons. 10-4 with Tom Herman in 2018, and last year 12-2 with Sarkisian. Mm-hmm. Oklahoma, 11 double-digit win seasons, and their bad seasons were an 8-win and a 9-win season. And then Brent Venables' first year, they were 6-7. But remember, they lost 4 of their last 5 games, each by 3 points. Man, Oklahoma and Texas is good. Oklahoma's good. Bo Davis is gone from the defensive line at Texas. He's at LSU now. But I don't think LSU is going to win the national championship this year. I think Nussmeier's a good quarterback. But I think now what we're seeing more than ever is you better have a lot of depth and walk-ons, and you're going to have to convince these guys not to transfer out. And you go back and you look at dual quarterbacks. I mean, everybody knows Chris Leak from Independence High School in Charlotte was recruited by Ron Zook. Urban Meyer comes in. He made it work. A little help from Tebow, but, that was Chris Leak's team. Mm-hmm. Nobody's going to argue that. So I think people look, you hear what you're saying, what Cole Kubelik and Rowan Harper, when they're making, just start connecting the dots and look at why. This is what gets me. People look at a magazine July 2nd, sitting on their ass at the beach drinking beer. And they go, we're going to lose this one, and this one. Well, fortunately, you're not one of the coaches, but I think I'm not saying you, but just in general. But I think what's going to happen is people are going to realize, wow, all these analysts are now going to be able to coach on the field. Now, it may be chaos. They can't go on the road and recruit, but you're going to get more attention to detail. We all know with kids sports, if you're just playing the best kids and you're not developing those other ones, time's going to catch up with you real fast. And if it's kind of like you didn't study all semester and you get there at the end of the semester for the exam, you're out of luck. I think this is going to change. You're going to see schools, look, you're going to see the portal transfer stuff slow down once we get into these playoffs, because kids are going to realize, man, look, 80 yards a game is a good game in the running back by committee world. That's just where we are now.
Mm-hmm. Rob, this is interesting, and I want to bring you into a long dialogue that I've had with Lauren here about being on the field and off the field as a coach. What perspective does that give you as an analyst now? I mean, I don't see, I guess, why you would want to be down on the field unless you were like an individual, I don't know, player analyst or something like a quarterback's coach or something like that. But analysts, I don't really know how that fits in. I don't know how those jobs fit into the fray as well as I do offensive coordinator, defensive line coach, all that kind of stuff. So I guess, do you see, how do you see that? I mean, I'm on the sidelines most games, like it's full, it's real packed. There's not much room left. So how does that work?
Well, the analysts are on the field during the game. I mean, they're down there.
But what's today's thing that we were reading about? Now they can be on the field, not on the field, but during the game, right?
Right. They can have a headset. They can, but it's going to depend on what your analysts have. For instance, Florida has the luxury of having Dan Enos, who's a great quarterback guy. So he's going to be another set of eyes, another shoulder to lean on. That really helps Billy Napier, who effectively, coaches the quarterbacks and that kind of thing, to free him up to maybe focus on the defense a little bit while the defense is on the field. Dan Enos and Ron O'Hara can handle Graham Mertz and that kind of thing, so it's some of those things, you have some freedom there, but it's really going to depend on what kind of analyst you have. And I don't want to belittle the analyst job or that kind of thing, but those guys have their place. And I know there are a lot of times with the analytics and some of the down and distance and they can kind of keep you on script and things like that when you call in defense, call in offense. But ultimately, I just think it's another set of eyes that can now be in communication with the entire coaching staff throughout the game. And there may be an analyst that, they might pick up on something, but, it's really just another set of eyes. And some people would say that's a good thing. and that'll help. Like I said, for Florida, it at least makes sense when you talk about the quarterback position and offensively a little bit. But it yet to be seen. I think that is important if you've got good analysts that know what they're doing and are on the field. I mean, sometimes those guys are just kind of like the nephew of the head coach or nephew of somebody or something like that.
Yeah.
And they, so it just depends. But obviously, if you got a good set of eyes and, those guys can be down on the field, they got a good, some guys have a really good view of things from the field view and can really see things and relay information, both offensively and defensively. But I think it's just going to be staff dependent upon how effective those analysts are. You look at, like a guy like, when Charlie Strong was an analyst, but wasn't an on the field guy. But I mean, just think of the on the field presence he could have had game by game at Alabama had he been able to have a headset on and really get after it and coach it. So, like I said, it just depends on what kind of analyst you have on your staff.
But hasn't there been some sort of issue? I mean, again, this is what we do every offseason. We sort of kind of forget where we came from, but like communication not been an issue on the sideline. It's not like we mastered, or the Gators have mastered sideline communication here. I mean, punt team and field goal team is still an issue.
Right.
So I don't know. Adding more of that to the mix.
Obviously, there's no excuse for the issues that Florida has had on special teams, and I'm not necessarily sure that another analyst or two coaching that position. I think they got to get a total staff buy-in, even from their full-time coaches, to get a little better on special teams, at least from what I've seen. I mean, in my experience as a coach and things like that, our entire staff was bought into coaching special teams. And that's what you got to have. And that's what I've said about Billy Napier's staff. It ain't on Billy Napier, and it ain't on the special teams analysts. It's on everybody that they've had issues on special teams. So, like I said, it's just that it's not one thing that you could say, the analysts on the field are going to be a difference. But like Rob said, there are going to be certain analysts that are really going to play a major role in the development of these players throughout the season and make a mark in game as well. So it's just going to be staff dependent.
Yeah. I'll tell you two observations I want to make. Talking to a good friend who talks to a lot of assistant coaches at Alabama and some different schools, Ole Miss. He said, one of his friends who's a coach on the staff, he said, look, you're a COVID recruiter. You're a China virus recruiter. He goes, what do you mean? He goes, you're playing video games with this kid and Xbox and all that crap. He goes, let me tell you something. He said, Hugh Freeze, he's going in there and sitting on the front porch. He knows what pot liquor is. You know what pot liquor is. If you've been out in the country, you do. He knows how to talk to him. He's going over there. I mean, I remember, stories over the years, Rodney Garner talking about when Pat Dye came to recruit him, even though he was Charles Barkley's cousin from Leeds, Alabama. He said after dinner, Coach Dye, instead of leaving and hopping on a plane and going somewhere, he rolled his sleeves up, went in there with my mama and washed dishes, and sat out on the porch and talked to her about just things that matter. Being a man, and I'm gonna trust me to raise your son. And he said, as soon as Coach Dye left, she goes, well, my mind's made up where you're going. So Rodney went to Auburn. But the other thing is, and I think you don't get away from the basics in recruiting. Another thing is, too, we had Tyler Siskey on, and he knows Billy Napier very well. They're friends. He made a good point. He said, here's the difference. The SEC has prided itself on that depth, 2 and 3 deep on the front sevens. With the portal, and it's not just the SEC, but in the SEC, we're going to start to see it. That second and third team guy that was there, he's going, well, I'm going to go somewhere else and start. That's why every Saturday now, man, you better watch out because you don't know what's behind door number 3. It's about to get crazy. I mean, absolutely. Las Vegas, those guys, they're trying to figure it out. Trust me. Vinny the Weasel, Jack the Knife, Harry the Cutthroat, It's about to change, guys.
Right. And let me give you guys a name. And you talk about analysts making a difference. There's a young, well, he's not a young man. He's like a year older than me, but Taver
He's
Johnson.
a young man.
Taver Johnson, who was on the Tennessee staff, was on Urban Meyer's staff, has spent time in the NFL. He was the interim coach at Arkansas when the whole Petrino thing went down. He's been a little bit of everywhere. That is an analyst that can now be on the field, and he brings a huge amount of knowledge. So that's one analyst that will definitely make a difference at Tennessee. I mean, kudos to Josh Heupel for getting Taver Johnson on the staff. I know a couple times even Dan Mullen inquired about him coming down here to Florida, but he's got a litany of All-Americans and Big Ten guys, and he was with the Eagles last year. Been a couple years with the Eagles. So, I think that, like I said, it's just going to depend on who the analyst is. But, a guy like Taver Johnson is going to make a big difference at Tennessee.
Yeah, it's just another way of and now you really think about it, it's another way to be like, yeah, well, they're just a coach. There's another way. It's like a generalized way. Well, they're analysts, whatever. Yeah, they're on the field.
Don't have to pay them as much now.
Yeah, I don't have to pay as much. You're an analyst. Yeah, I mean, it's like another way. I mean, intern. We were talking about that. I like Mike McDaniel at the Dolphins. And I was talking to Rob, and I asked this. I said, I feel like we're going to see a lot more of this type of coach. Where you're going to see, just a little bit of a different breed. Because I think let's be honest. Football has gotten to the point, and I think that this Madden and all this, the craze and video games over the years has a big part about doing this. But the general public as a whole didn't used to know what cover 2 was, or
they still don't.
They still don't, but they think they do. Right. Right. So, but I think with any of these things, the development of any sort of sport or anything that requires thought, or there's a progression, right? You're going to get better. You're going to get more difficult. You're going to breed more of these people that are like, oh, I see this differently. We could do this, and this differently. And I think that's an analytical mind, right? That's going to come up with that.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to have analysts, right? Then analysts are going to use tools like AI, right? Which, again, I've said this 1,000 times, but every play, every down that's ever been in the NFL is now, cataloged and logged in an AI software. Now you can get predictive software based off of this game at this time with these teams at this place, but and it'll tell you in seconds. That's a great tool for analysts. You don't think they're going to use the crap out of predictive behavioral learning software? I mean, it may take the analyst jobs one day, but they use it as a tool. So you're going to have this more of this, somebody who's probably a little higher education, someone who's not afraid, who knows how to get through and crunch numbers. Mike McDaniel, I think he went to Yale. So you've got we're seeing a development of the game. We're seeing develop things. Players are being asked to do more and more and more because other players are going up and catching the ball with one hand and and looking good and doing it. So it's a progression, and I think that's okay. I'm not a purist in sport. I like to see anything to make the sport better. To make it faster. I think being able to communicate in the helmets is long overdue. I think that's been something that's needed for a long time. I think that will help a lot for Florida this year, and then especially having Graham Mertz obviously back. But I think that there is a good cradle for DJ Lagway to be developed, and these analysts and these things, or whatever you want to call them. I think if anything, Billy's going to be prepared and have a plan, right? I mean, that's his MO. So I think that is going to be a good place for him to be. And my only concern is play calling, is scheme, but then again, I have Franz and you and all you guys are assuring me last night, as long as defensively things are different, then these opportunities are going to rise and things will get better offensively. I understand how that works, but obviously I'm a little traumatized by the last couple of seasons. So I guess the bigger question, of all of it is there a way to get all this information and crunch all this stuff to make the scheme a little better? Or are we going to see the same sort of scheme lineup that we did last year because we've got Graham Mertz at the helm? And, obviously it's going to be his offense. So is that what you predict? I know you sit and talk to guys like Rob Sale and everyone else. Is that what you're hearing? And is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, the problem is not the players. I really don't think. I think they have everything that they need. The only thing that's glaring to me is sometimes when the Florida offense has to go off script, it just sometimes doesn't match up, and that's where I'm concerned. Is my concern looking at it is they've got everything they need. But then when the offense has to go off script, if you look at it, man, that first 15 that everybody kind of does, it's pretty slick for the Gators. But then when things kind of go off script, there's always that head scratcher like, what? And it's almost like I think a lot of times, and I tell people, I think the best offensive staffs essentially have 6 offensive coordinators, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. That means the receiver coach is involved. That means the running back coach is involved. The O-line coach is involved. All those guys are quarterback coaches involved. And then the head coach is involved. And if everybody's on the same page, then I think that you get a good offensive scheme, you're good off script, you're managing things. And, to your point, it kind of baffles you because, Brendan, like you mentioned, Billy Napier always tends to hang on to the analytics when someone asks him a question. I mean, he's very quick to defend it based upon the analytics. And even coming in, we heard that from Louisiana. So it would lend it to maybe say, well, maybe they shouldn't depend on the analytics as much and let their eyes, control what they call and what they see and things like that. Because, like you said, you want to see the game advance, but at some point you got to go back to the nuts and bolts of this thing. And sometimes that guy is just better than the guy across from him. So get him the football. I think it's some of that, that is still evident in today's game, even though the analytics has improved and things like that. So my concern would be that when they go off script and the fact that Billy Napier, because even with the analytics, like he'll defend his decisions based upon the analytics. And then you're kind of like, okay, so that's kind of my concern when you talk about the Florida offense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hey, think about how important being able to evaluate, the team approach, like in the medical practice, doctors, you have a team, a lot of eyeballs. You know who the number 123 ranked running back prospect in America was in the February of 2018 class? It was a kid out of Yazoo City, Mississippi, who grew up in the country. That's down near Vicksburg. And he used to take tires with a rope or a big old heavy chain, and they would put them on their shoulders, him and his brother, and that's how they trained. Kenneth Gainwell went to Memphis. Mike Norvell found that guy. Mm-hmm. You think about all these guys out there. I know a guy, Tommy Agee from Maplesville, Alabama, that played at Auburn. Mm-hmm. Tommy grew up working at a pulpwood mill, throwing logs around. I mean, there's country strong and there's weight room strong. And when you combine the two, there's just a specialness. I mean, and I just think we're talking about a lot of analytics and all, and that's Lane Kiffin's mantra. You're dealing with people. And if you make your team culture tough and they buy all in, Billy Napier is blue collar Billy. I mean, I don't know him. I've been around him a few times and stuff, but he ain't dumb. He's people. I mean, but the problem is everybody's got logo fever. And again, give credit always where it's due. That's a Roman Harper, Cole Kubelik thing. But I agree with it. Logo fever. You're looking at that schedule and you're thinking everybody on your schedule, all 12 teams, are going to be as good as they're supposed to be. They're going to do everything just right. Well, you've got to just think, okay, all right, now how are we going to outwork them?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of psychology. Steve Spurrier,
it's all psychology.
Master of psychology.
Well, but Urban Meyer, master.
Yes,
of psychology.
another one. Yes,
but
didn't
Spurrier
Spurrier use a psychologist?
Guys, I don't know. No, Urban is a I majored in psychology. I don't know if he used a psychologist or not. I know, I don't know. I know from interviewing him this last season. You can go back and listen to it on our on YouTube.
Oh, he's very smart.
He would you would ask him, what was happening if you're getting a lot of fits, and you go in at halftime to make adjustments. He goes, I just run over to the defensive side of the locker room and be like, what's getting your ass kicked in there today? What are they doing? Okay, cool. We're going to go do that to them. And they would literally, that's what the conversation, that's what he said. He said, sometimes that's what it is. He goes, he goes, sometimes I didn't know what to do. And you got to know what you got to say, I don't know what to do in this moment, and that's when you got a guy in headset or whatever that's going to help you through or say, don't do this or don't do that. It challenge you. It's like, you got to have a vice president. You got to have an XO. You got to have somebody that's going to be able to step to you and say, no, we got to score 7 here on the road and against Missouri to win this game.
Well, and the other thing is, think about it, and as we're taking a trip down memory lane, like you talk about Urban and you talk about some of these guys, but I'm gonna throw a name out there, and this is something that we all know Lou Holtz, but before there was a Reggie Bush, before there was a Percy Harvin, there was a Rocket Ishmael. And what they asked Holtz was, what you do in that situation? We get the ball to Rocket.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes you don't overthink things, so I would say to Florida, in Florida's case, you get the ball to Trey Wilson. You get the ball to Trey Wilson. You get the ball to Trey Wilson. You let Trey Wilson take you home. And there may be other guys,
Urban Meyer's the same way, because I said to him, I go, do you respond to a player that comes off and says, I want the ball?
Right.
And he goes, sometimes, sometimes I think,
but you dance with your horse. You go with your horse, and I think that's what I'm saying. It's kind of like, Eugene Wilson has 5 for 65 in the first 12 minutes of the game. Then the rest of the game, he's got 1 for 15. Some of those things and Eugene Wilson he's flexible enough that you can move him all over the place. The kid has got something. And I'm just thinking of that same thing is where you put him in the backfield, you put him at the slot, you give him a reverse, you do all these things to make sure, because he is going to stress defenses no matter where he is on the field. And I think that's one of the things that, when we look at it, the Pete Carrolls and some of those guys, is you get the ball to the Reggie Bushes, you get the ball to the Percy Harvins, you get the ball to the Trey Wilson. You get the ball. Just recently, you get the ball to a Kadarius Toney. You let
no
those
matter
guys,
what the game that was oftentimes, sometimes that was the scheme.
So I think that's one of those things where when you look at it, it's got to be a little bit, it's got to be shrunk in a little bit, and you got to make sure that, South Carolina was a great microcosm. The South Carolina game was a great microcosm of what we're really saying. It didn't necessarily stick, but that was a late in the game, a Ricky Pearsall, Eugene Wilson the third game. Outside of Graham Mertz at the time, probably the 2 best players on the field, along with the Montrell Johnson and the ETN sprinkled in. But when it came time to get the Gators home, those 2 guys on the same side of the field making plays. And I think, sometimes it's just A/B equals C.
Yeah. I think your alphas, they want the ball. I think I read something where
level, right? I think all these guys in skill positions when you're in the SEC and you're starting in the SEC, you want the ball. You've wanted the ball for a long time. You're right. I think that's been done a long time. These players all want the ball. Everybody wants a chance to go to the next level. Everyone wants a chance to shine. Of course, I don't think there's a guy out there that doesn't want that.
Yeah, and when I've got a coach that I talked to, I just texted him to see if he can be on the show with us Friday. Coached 20 years in the SEC. He said one of the toughest things is having to fight for the kids you're recruiting that might be a 5'8" or a 5'9" defensive back. He says, but man, he's a bad son of a biscuit. He goes, I'm gonna tell you something. I'll take him in a barroom fight any day. Patrick Swayze and Roadhouse, that kind of kid. you want those kind of kids.
No, dude, I want Rudy.
Yeah, well, you do too. I agree. But I can remember Tracy Rocker at Auburn. He would grab people in the locker room, buddy, and say, "Let me tell you something." And I can't say it on the show, the decorum prohibits, but you better put out, dude, or but you've got to demand that. Got to have accountability in that locker room. I don't. Again, y'all know Urban Meyer. I don't. That's my wife's favorite coach.
Netflix? Have you watched Netflix?
Yeah.
Have you watched Swamp Kings?
I have not watched Swamp Kings.
What?
But here's what I do know this about Urban Meyer.
This is your
I've
homework.
always followed his career since he was at Utah. And I know a guy that signed and played for him at Bowling Green. He's coaching a football team in Memphis, Melvin Cole. Good guy. Urban Meyer my wife has a degree in psychology, and she always says about your mindset, junk in, junk out, positive in, positive out. And I read a lot of books like Rick Pitino, Success is a Choice, right behind me. Read different books. The great coaches will say, my quarterback is not allowed to have a negative thought in his mind. Unacceptable. And when you think about how meticulous Billy Napier is, and you picked the coach. Hugh Freeze last year, he said it during the season. I've never really been able to get it right my first year with my coaching staff. That's when he still had everybody on the staff. But now he's got 6 coaches on that staff at Auburn that have coached with him in the past. He's got the band back together. You look at Billy Napier. I'll just make this prediction. If Florida struggles out of the gate and they fire him next year and the year after that, they're going to be having this same discussion about getting over the hump. You know how when you get out in the surf down at the Gulf and you're trying to get over those waves, you just got to keep going. You're going to get knocked down. You got to get back up. Psychology is Dr. Kevin Elko. He spoke to us at work one time. Oh my God, this guy, he's a sports psychologist. He's incredible. Find out what makes you tick. But what you'll find out as a coach, and Lauren, you and Brendan know this, not every player is motivated by the same stuff. Mm-hmm. So you better know your players. You better know every damn one of them. You better know where they're from, about who their family is, who their grandparents are, aunts and uncles.
But they don't know that anymore. I mean,
that's the problem.
But they're not gonna. It's just how much.
You got to learn it. You've got.
I keep
the more
telling
you know
you, Rob.
about them.
I know that is a beautiful theory, but that ship has sailed. It's how much now, and that is never going away. You let the genie out the bottle. No more.
Well,
look, even Urban Meyer said, "We don't know anymore. We don't. It's not like they don't care. They don't have to know. Why are you going to go do that now if you don't have to know? If it's all about how much, why are you going to spend that? You got enough things to do." And it's like he's like, I knew Tim Tebow forward and backwards before he walked in because I texted him and talked on the phone 400 times a day. Like, because he's like, that doesn't happen anymore, and that's never going back.
I think it is
created another professional sport, but we haven't. There's no time now because it's like, why spend the time? It's money because they don't care if you call the parents. It's about how much. It's going to be about how much, and that's what we're going to.
It's going to be about how much. But you do get a discount if you're a winning program. You do get a discount when it comes to the NIL. And people need to think about that. And I'll tell you something else. In the business world, people don't fire their financial advisor, their insurance guy, their stockbroker, whatever, during tough times. They'll fire you if they don't know you, but they won't fire their friend. You bet it still matters having relationships. I promise you. More coach, these NIL numbers that we're being told are so inflated. It's like people that brag about how much money they make. I'm telling you, you still have got to go in that house and be able to relate to the people, because most of the time when you're recruiting, it's going to be about money. I understand that, but I'm not about to let go of and give up what we've done for 155 years. We'll figure this out. But I think if it comes down to a $10,000 difference or $20,000, if they've got a relation, I said this about the Gators. Let's focus on Florida. You go to Florida, you do it right, you graduate, you're a scout team guy or whatever. You've got that network of ring knockers, man. But if you leave and it doesn't work out and you try to come back to Gainesville, they're going to go, dude, you quit on us. You think those guys in that locker room, they're never going to forget. Your parents never forget who's at the bedside when it's time to go. And no one ever forgets who goes through the toughest times. Tough times don't last forever, but tough people do. I think we got to get – it works, I promise you, because I'm seeing it in certain schools.
When we were all kids, all three of us, we used to think about that about our NFL teams. We used to believe that whole notion.
Not really.
Nice quarterback. Come on now. I mean,
trades have always been there, though.
John Elway. No, but I mean, no. Like you grew up like that. That was I didn't grow up on college as much. I grew up a Bronco fan. That's what I had. I mean, we didn't care. I mean,
I grew up a Cowboys fan.
Yeah. So, but I'm just saying we didn't, we thought that too. And we heard that too when this free agency thing was coming out, when there's all this money and there's salary caps and all that. We thought we thought it too, right? But it changed, but it stayed the same. And now guys are shuffling back and forth in deals all the time. And, we're still because the fan doesn't care.
The fan loves the team.
Average fan doesn't even know the NIL is going on. They didn't even know college athletes are being paid. They don't. I mean, I talk to them all the time. Oh, college athletes can be paid now. Really? I didn't hear that. That's crazy. I mean, someone who's a decent fan of. Oh, I didn't know that happened already. So the knowledge out there for average Joe. They just want to go to their tailgate. They want to go hang out. It's something to do. It's their social. It's their thing, and they want to scream "Go Gators!" And and I love it, and that's what makes it great. So I think, Rob, that's what will save it in the end. Is I don't think the fan's going to care really that much.
Lauren, you think about this, and Brendan, when you walk around campus in Gainesville, the people tailgating there's more business done on a football Saturday, on a golf course, bird hunting. I mean, and people are talking the game. Your program has arrived when no one asks who you're playing, because you're going to see the Gators play. That's what you're going to see. And the Swamp, 90,000, architecturally, engineers will tell you this. Once you get past about 60,000, it's the lower bowl. That upper deck, I mean, it's almost like it's not wasted sound, but where is it going? The Swamp was designed by some damn smart architects and engineers. Jan Cowart is our architect that we talk with on our show with in Montgomery. He's designed their firm lots of stadiums and football centers and stuff like that. The arms race, I want to ask both y'all about this. What's more important now, having all the brick and mortar palaces or having the cash? Because the last two questions before they leave is how much. But I still think if you strengthen relationships, like in business, Lauren, Brendan, let's think about, you work for a company, a pharmaceutical company. You've been there 20 years. Another company's offering you a slight raise, but you got 20 years equity with the firm you've been with, and you've got all these relationships and all. I mean, money matters, but I really think if you've got strong relationships, you're more likely to stick around. And that's what these kids are going to be finding out when the truth starts coming out on the portal. If you've been ditching your friends, hey, you got to, trust is hard to get. It's hard to get. It's even harder to get back. I think we're on to something. I know NIL is a big deal, but I think relationships do matter.
Speaking of relationships,
you win with people, and that's why relationships are I mean, that's why I think the relationships will always be there, and it may be related. Ohio State doesn't have the same NIL issues that a Georgia or Florida has.
Yeah.
For a lot of different reasons. But I think you win with people, and I agree. I mean, Rob, it's kind of 50-50. There will be those that will embrace those relationships, and there will be those that can be bought. And it's going to be on an individual basis, and maybe that's the challenge, is finding what's most important to the kids.
If I were Florida, I'd bring Kevin Carter back. He used to be a math tutor when he was playing for the Gators. He tutored people in math. I mean, that's one of my favorite all-time Gators. I hated to have to play against him.
He spoke to the team.
terrifying.
I know he spoke to the team. Was it last winter? I think maybe.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I mean, get guys like him involved. I mean, I just think you can do a lot more than you think when you strengthen relationships. People don't leave as quickly if they go, man, I've built a lot of relationships. I mean, the money's there. But again, if money solved every problem, A&M and Texas would be swapping national championships every year.
Well, the thing, Billy's made great relationships. That's one. Some people say he's too nice. I don't think that's his issue.
I don't think
Well, no, that's some people say. Is he too nice? Is he not tough enough? I'm just. It was a headline.
Yeah, that's enough. We'll save that for another show. But
we'll talk about another show. Lauren, thanks so much for coming on tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Lauren Meadow, check him out on GatorbaitMedia.com sometimes. Lauren, you be well. Say hi to Marsha and tell her I miss her, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Lauren Meadows, everybody.
Right,
thanks, man. Good job, Lauren Meadows. Rob, we did it again. Another show in the books. Everybody, make sure you tune in tomorrow and check Rob and I out one more time. But it's Rob's show. It's the SEC Sideline Sports right here on this network. 9 a.m. Let's see. I have a little thing for you right here. There's 9 a.m. Oh, there it goes. Sports on tomorrow. 9 a.m. Eastern tomorrow right here on this network.
Yeah.
Click. Follow.
Hey, we got a great.
You'll see it. Well, and then you guys, if you missed the show, you always can rewind and check it out. But Rob, thanks for joining us again tonight. I mean, we're not joining us. I guess we just do this. This is what we do, Rob.
It's what we do. I love it.
It's like every day of my life. It's what we do.
Yeah.
Everyone doesn't realize Rob and I've never met. We've never met face to face. But we're going to do that at SEC Media Days. We're cyber friends. I got my ticket. I'm coming out. So
all right.
Yeah.
Look, we're gonna have Jake Wimberly in the morning with all kind of graphics on college football. Yes. We're also going to have Yancey Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline, try again, get a better signal, and Vince Farrar, the sports animal in Knoxville. We're gonna cover a lot in the morning. There's a lot to it. Happy 4th of July, everybody. We'll see you in the morning. Thanks for letting me be a part of a great show.
Screw the British. We'll talk to you guys in the morning. See ya. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
I like that. You like my little screw the British thing? I think I'm right to the table. All right, everyone. I love you.
I like it.
Good night. And I think this button. I'll do this button with this one. Yeah, that button. Good night.